G'day, Aussie Bonsai Bloke here, how you going? Today we're working on this silver birch. Recommendation of Paul. He watches the channel and he messaged me on Facebook and I said, what would you like to see, the silver birch or the Turkish oak? So he said, silver birch, so that's what we're working on. I may even do the Turkish oak later and have 2 videos come out, we'll see. But anyway, so this is silver birch. My plan for this one today is, well, as you can see, I let it overgrow during summer. I should have pruned it back to get more ramification, but I never got the ramification because I didn't chop it back. But it actually hasn't hurt this tree much at all, you know, it's still got its good initial structure. There's no real negative, you know, reverse taper anywhere where it's taken over and caused any issues. So it's probably actually helped this tree, got it a bit stronger, a bit more vigorous. Next year it should grow really strong. People talk about the dieback on the silver birch. So far, they're also a fairly short-lived tree apparently. 50 odd years max. So far I haven't really had any dieback on this one. I grew this one in the ground. It's hard to keep track of years, but I'm going to say I put it in the ground 7 years ago, maybe 8. Dug it up probably 4 years ago, 3 to 4, probably 4. So it's probably in the ground for 4 years, been in a pot for 4 years. In the back here, you'll see this big cutout section here. This used to be the main trunk heading up. I cut that back while it was in the ground, and then the following either year or 2 years after that, probably only a year, it grew this next leader up here, and then I chopped that back up the top here hard on when I collected it, and then I've grown all this other branching out once I've had it in a pot. I don't think that I've repotted this tree actually. I've got to keep an eye on this moss going up the bark here. Might put some vinegar on it to kill it, because it's got really good bark and I don't want to wreck it. This bark grew in the ground pretty much. It's sort of ripped sort of paper bark sort of stuff that it gets from the silver birch. And as far as I can remember, this has a really good root base, I think. But like I said, it's been a few years since I've seen the root base, so I'm not sure. It does need to go into a new pot soon. I'm debating on putting it in a pot this year. We'll see. Or whether, you know, it's still growing really healthy, whether I leave it in this pot for another year, won't hurt. So I may even do that, but I've got to get rid of some of this moss around the trunk because I don't want it to wreck that nice bark that it's got. Yeah, so anyway, so I've got to take the wire off the tree. Just prune back to some good ramification. You're looking at the back of the tree now. This is the front of the tree, somewhere in there. Okay, so prune back to some good ramification. One thing that has happened is that this big strong branch up here that's grown is actually on the back of the apex. And I've got 2 choices. I can either cut it off and then keep the apex down here. But then I thought, you know, silver birches are quite tall, more elegant sort of trees, and I've made this a really squat, strong looking tree. I think this tree can afford to have a little bit more height to it. So I'm thinking about running, even though this is on the back, I'm actually thinking about bending this one forward and running it as a second apex. So I'll have an apex out here, and then I might bend this one out to the side over here and then have a second apex up the top here. And then over the years, as it all, you know, fills in and bellows out, it'll have 2 distinct sort of apexes, and then I'll try and create a little bit of division in branches. But that's years away. But I do have to make a decision on whether I want to keep that growth at the back, make a second apex, or simply just chop it off and be happy with the height of the tree how it is. It'll still look really good. So I have to decide that. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the wire. Even though the wire was on for the whole summer, it actually hasn't cut in too bad. It's actually been pretty good. I didn't actually put a lot of wire on it, only on a few branches that needed some guidance. So yeah, I'm going to cut the wire off, probably off camera. Oh, you'll also notice I've got my jacket on. It's been pretty cold. I'll probably get rid of my jacket soon. I'm starting to warm up, but we're actually had a -2-degree day. I'll show you the... Oh, by the way, this is the dry as a bone, the Australian jacket. Dry as a bone. Probably still made in China though. Who knows? Everything's bloody made over there these days. Must be cheaper. Not paying the wages that we get paid over here. So it all goes overseas. Anyway, old dry as a bone. So yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the video that I did this morning of all the ice. We had a good frost overnight, just to show you that Australia does freeze overnight. We do get some cold nights, and as you can see, we obviously get deciduous trees and they go dormant. A lot of people ask whether the trees here go dormant, but pretty obvious that they do here. You can see there's no leaf on it. And I'll show you the video, and you'll be surprised by the bird bath that froze over. No worries, cheers. G'day. For those of you who think that doesn't get frozen out here in Australia, this is night time. Night time still get cold. Got ice everywhere here. And I'll show you the bird bath. Come over to the bird bath. It's all frozen here. So I guess down to about -2, I reckon. There's a bird bath. Completely frozen. The rock's stuck in there. Okay, so it's still pretty cold. As you can see, it's quite thick. So it's frozen the bird bath. Don't think the birds will be needing a drink right now anyway in this cold. So now they've got a nice bath. So yeah, she's pretty cold out here. All frozen. No worries. Cheers, we'll get back to it. Okay. Excuse me. G'day. Welcome back. Well, I hope you've seen a bit of ice out there. It's pretty cool. Yeah, so I've pulled the wire off. Wire's gone. As you can see, there wasn't a lot of wire on there. I have noticed though, while I was pulling the wire off, there is actually quite a few, not dieback big branches, but some of the small branches that were shaded out have actually died in there, shriveled back, because they just weren't getting enough sun to keep them alive. They were shaded out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in there with my snips and just get rid of any dead ones that I can see, or maybe just cut a few out while you guys are there. Just go get my snips. Can't seem to find. Couldn't find them. I put them on one of the arms of my hoist, which I use for my lighting. If you've seen one of my previous videos, got my snips. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here. They're reasonably obvious dead branches. You just come in here, and you can see it's gone brown. They look more shriveled and a little bit browner. There's only a subtle difference, but you can tell if you're looking closely. So cut that one off. We'll try to get a close up of this, although it's going to be a bit hard. Let's hope it focuses. See, the base of that one is alive. But then, as I cut further up, okay, well, oh yeah, see these little branches are dead. No green in them, brown. The base was just alive, but there's another one there to take its place. So I'll go through and cut all of these off. If there's one where I think that I need a branch from that spot and the base is just alive, I might cut that base of that branch back really hard just to leave a little nub there with a few buds on it, and hopefully it'll reshoot. If I find a spot where I do definitely need a branch from that location. So I'll just get rid of all the dead stuff first, and then I'll come back to styling the rest of the tree. Yeah, just so I don't get confused when I get carried away in here. Don't get confused about, and cut a good branch off. Because I thought the other one was alive and then find out it was dead. So I'm going to go through and cut all the dead ones off first. Actually, there's a reasonable sized branch here that's died. I'll show you. Okay. And same thing, I'm going to leave a little nub there, because if I cut that back hard, leave that little nub there, I really do need a branch to shoot from there. Otherwise it's a very long branch. Not straight, and it does have taper, but I would like to see a branch there. So I'll cut it back really short. Hopefully that'll push out one of these basil buds down here. It'll be all good. I'll just show you this dead branch as well. Okay, so this is one of the bigger ones that I've lost. So what's happened is, because I didn't trim it back and keep an eye on it, some of these got shaded out, and then the tree thought, well, you're not giving me much energy because you've shaded me out. So as a result, I'll let you die, and I'll look after my strong branches that are growing really good and giving me a lot of energy back to the roots. And that's what the tree's done. It's shed its branches that aren't helping it much, and looked after the branches that were giving it a lot of resources, which is how trees work, you know. They're not going to look after some weak little piddly branch in here and try and keep it alive when one of these is feeding it 10 times as much. And we'd do the same. So, you know, we had something that was costing us 10 times more money for no result, than something that was cheaper and gave you better results, you would do it, wouldn't you? And that's what the tree does. It just basically ejects the branches it doesn't want and keeps the branches that are working for it, which is fine, you know, and we just have to try and manage that. And one way of managing that is in summer, allowing light to get in where you want the branches, and then that manipulates the tree to then keep those branches on the inside, because the inside branches then get a bit stronger. And not only that, you're taking energy away from the outside branches, so the tree doesn't look after that one as much, and it'll start pushing energy back to the weaker ones on the inside. So you just have to keep managing all that all the time. So I'm going to go through, I'm going to cut all this dead stuff off, and then I'll come back in here and help you out. Well, not help you out. Then I'll come back in here and show you the actual styling of the tree. Wow, this is a big one for these little scissors. Jesus, man, that was hard. And see there where I cut that one off, there's a little one here to take its place, so that's good. There's another little one under here we don't need, but I'll worry about that when I style it later. Another one down the bottom here. But anyway, there's another dead branch. Just alive at the base, get further up. Okay. Completely dead. You can even see the growth rings in there. Looks like 3-year-old branch. 3 years of growth rings. I don't think the camera would ever pick that up, but we can try. See if it can. 1, 2, 3 years probably. Anyway, that doesn't matter, it's just mucking around. Just having a bit of a muck around. So you can see, I've cleaned the dead out of this side. You have a look how much different that looks, and a bit more leggy. In fact, oh no, that branch is still alive. There's a lot more leggy now out here, isn't it? You have a look at that compared to that. And this looks like a lot more twigging. But I'm sure once I get rid of the branches in there, it'll probably look the same as this. So then what I'll do is I'll get in here and I'll wire it out and cut the branches back to what I want, wire out the branches I want, and I'll probably keep nearly all of these because there's not actually that many on here, and then let it shoot again in spring. No worries, cheers. I'll get rid of all the dead stuff. G'day. Well, you can see I've cleaned out all the dead stuff. Maybe not quite, a little bit there. The lower one's alive. I'll leave that to create a little low pad there, it'll look pretty cool. So you can see it's a lot more sparse. This tree's been pretty good to me. There's pretty many, you idiot Sam. There's pretty much no areas that have 3 branches coming from one location. There was a couple and I cut them off. Okay, it's sort of like there's still one. Oh no, so even that one goes 2. Focus, you silly camera. Focus, man. Come on, man. Do it, man. Having a bit of trouble here. Okay, so that one there actually goes to 2 there, then it divides there. Even though from back further, it looks like almost 3 from one spot. It's not quite. It divides and then divides again. And that's what I'm saying about if you have short internodes on your plant and you cut back to the first node, sometimes all of them can look like they come from the one spot, even though they don't quite. So anyway, cleared out all the dead stuff. You can see it looks a lot more open. It's pretty much ready to wire now. But I thought this is probably the best chance I'm going to get from now on to get rid of some of these dead bits. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pull this screw out, which was used to guide wire something from the top down at some stage. I'll pull that screw out. I want to carve a little bit of a hollow in here. Also edit or carve the deadwood stub here. You can see it's calloused around here and left us with a deadwood there. So I'm going to do something to make it look a bit prettier. Same up the top. Okay, a couple up there. And I'm not going to get as drastic as what I do in some of my olive carving videos. This is purely, sorry about the bumping of the camera, this is purely just to make it look a bit more natural and just to get rid of these dead stubs. So it pretty much just be creating a little bit of a hollow so that this callus tissue can pretty much taper around it, and in years to come it may even cover it up. If it doesn't cover it up, it doesn't matter. I just want to make it look a little bit prettier. This one here is almost okay to leave, not quite. I'll do a little bit of hollowing in there. You can see some of the other branches I've taken off are okay. I'll leave them. So yeah, I'm gonna get to doing that. I wasn't gonna do that today, but it looks like I'm gonna have to. My best chance to do it, so I'm gonna do it. Because as the tree gets more ramified, it's gonna get harder and harder to get in there to do it. The wood on a silver birch, I believe, is not that good as far as keeping for deadwood. So it'll be pretty much just to create more of a natural look, and the deadwood won't become a feature. In fact, it'll be more to disguise the deadwood more than anything, or the cuts. More just to disguise it, not to create a feature. Whereas when I do the olive carving, quite often it's to create a feature, because the olive wood's very hard and good for carving and lasts a lot of years. So anyway, see how we go, and I'll get the Dremel out. Okay, so we're about to carve it out. I'll just show you how to do one and then I'll do the rest. I do have a fairly big dilemma. I've lost the carving bit for my little Dremel, which would have been perfect for this. Can't find it. May have dropped it on the ground and swept it up, put it in the bin most likely. It was getting a bit worn out anyway, but still, a bit of a bummer. So I haven't fixed my Makita die grinder yet, so I'll probably have to resort to this air tool die grinder. See how that goes. I've used it before. It's loud, but it does work okay. I do have a smaller bit if I need to use it. This has got the 6mm shafts meant for the die grinder. This can also do the 3mm shaft as well. So I'm going to just show you that one. I'll get into it. I won't be able to talk much because it's going to get pretty noisy. I'm going to have the air compressor going and this going. Basically what I'll do is I'll just get in there and grind away the stub. Okay. And then once the stub's gone, then I'll make a bit of a hole with that smaller bit probably. We'll see how this bit goes anyway. Okay, so I'll just brace myself and give it a go. You can see I've taken half it off already. Got to be really careful it doesn't take off and damage this branch down here. It could do, and it may do, but we'll see how we go. And I'll just keep digging a hole in there. Okay, so we've got a bit of a hole. Going to try and go a bit deeper. Let's go around the other side. A bit noisy, air compressor's running. Hopefully you can hear me. Then I'll dig a bit deeper in here with this. Okay, so now you can see, taking some out the sides, so it's not just a big round circle, and now when it rolls back over it'll hopefully heal in there, and it should look alright. If it doesn't heal over, there's a bit of a hole in there now to create a bit of interest, and it'll certainly roll over a bit anyway, and this spot will look quite interesting if it doesn't heal over, so that's all you're looking to do. A bit of a hole. That's on the studs anyway. Not looking at a detailed carve job because really it's going to colour over this anyway, and if it doesn't quite fully cover it, it'll go pretty close. So don't worry about trying to do any detail. Just want to get the hole so that it can cover over. Next step, get a razor blade and just clean off these edges so that it's going to heal over a lot quicker, a lot easier. So I'll do that. Okay, a bit of a different angle there. Air compressor stopped so I don't have to shout quite so much. hopefully you heard most of what happened. I'm just going to go through and clean up these edges nice and sharp. What this will allow is for the cambium to really heal over the sides nicely. It'll really roll over nice and smooth, make it easier. So I'll do that on the other side as well. And yeah, like when this covers in, it should look pretty good now. Reasonably natural. A heck of a lot more natural than what it would have before with that that big stub hanging out. And I'm going to also cut into the cambium up the top. Now when it heals over, should really heal over nice and smooth. Hopefully fill the hole. If it doesn't, you'll just have this little, both sides come over and a little hole in the middle where it'll nearly meet, and it'll look pretty interesting anyway. So that's pretty much how I'm going to do them all. One's at the top, one down the bottom. The big one, I'll do the big one the same, and it'll just fill into what it fills in. I'm not going to create any detail. These trees aren't good for that anyway. So I'll do the rest of those. There's another 5 to do, I reckon. I won't keep you live for that because it's too noisy. Too noisy for the camera. Anyway, cheers. Okay, welcome back. We've managed to do all the carving. I've just pretty much, same as I did with that one, hollowed them all out. Cut it back with the razor blade so it can heal good. At the end of the video I'll show you, I only put wood glue on there, which is a bit runny, and I'm not going to do that until the end of the video, otherwise I'll get it all over myself. I'll let that dry, and that seems to protect it pretty well. Because we're in the middle of winter here, it's not going to compartmentalise the wound, so I'm going to put a bit of wood glue on there to help it from drying out so it doesn't dry out. You could put paint as well. If you've got some cut paste, go for it. Cut paste is probably okay. It's probably good for the tree, but wood glue seems to work pretty well. I'm not sure whether the stuff in cut paste helps anymore or not, but I don't seem to have any trouble with wood glue. So anyway, around the bottom of some of these, I've left them in a circle, and some people don't think the circle looks really natural, but what happens on a normal tree is if you had, that was a branch, say my arm was a branch, and it died back, you get a circular callus around the bottom where it cuts off that branch, calluses around it, and eventually this branch breaks off in the wind, whatever, and you end up with a hole. First a stub, then it rots back in, and you end up with a hole around the callus, inside the callus, with a circle callus. And then what happens is it slowly heals over, and you end up with this hole with a heap of callus tissue around it, and it is in the shape of a circle because originally it healed in the shape of a circle. So I think it's quite natural to have the circle look as the callus is healing back over. Like I say, in my olives, I'm not looking for the callus to heal over, so I do them differently, make it more of a feature. In here, I don't care if it doesn't heal right over. It's still a feature if you can see that callus rolling in with a bit of a hole in there. So I create a little bit of a hole, but not much, Some people also are a bit worried about a little bit of water sitting in the hole. Some people even talk about drilling a hole underneath to let the water drain out, but if this trunk hollows out in the middle in the next 20 years, it'll create something really interesting, or even 5 years, create something really interesting. So I actually look forward to that slowly rotting away the middle of the trunk and hollowing it out, because that actually creates more interest rather than less. Maybe a skinny trunk, tall, elegant tree, you wouldn't want that, but then you wouldn't have the dead wood on it anyway. So This is more of a fatter tree with a few bits of deadwood feature where I've cut branches off. And if that, same thing, if this one heals right over and completely heals, fine, you know, I'll just have no scars on it too much, but if it doesn't, I'm not worried either. So anyway, so now we've done that, got to get to wiring out the tree. I might wire out one branch and then possibly keep the rest on hyperlapse. The main structure is pretty set, so I don't need to have the main big structural branching going out into the other branching because it's already set. So if I wire these two branches out here on their own, although you get that flippy floppy, because this is already set, you can still set these where you want them. If you ran a wire up there it would be easier, but I don't see the point of running one all the way down here and then all the way back up here just to move these two branches. So I'm just going to move these two on their own because this one's already set. If I wanted to move this one around, then I would run one of these all the way down and around, and then the other one would cross both. And it does give you a more solid structure, but then this branch is pretty solid anyway, certainly strong enough to bend these without moving around too much. And same with these. I'll just wire out the two that I want to keep, and I'll just do that. So to make it pretty simple, pretty easy, because I've already set the main structure another time. I do have other videos setting structure if you want to have a look at them. So I'm just going to put a little bit of wire on this tree, hopefully not too much. Not a big fan of taking wire off, so I figure the less I put on, the less I have to take off. Okay, so let's get to wiring at this one branch. Just try and move this camera in a bit. It's a bit hard. I've got the power board hanging off with a charger going to my phone. Got all sorts going on here. A bit hard to move it around. Okay, so what I'm going to do is grab a branch to wire. Go around. I'm only going to keep maybe 3 nodes on here maximum, so I don't have to wire up the branch too far. And I'm supporting the wire with my other hand. You can do another wrap around this stronger branch down here, which acts like an anchor, so it doesn't try to move around on you too much. And then go up this other branch here. And same thing, because I'm going to be cutting them short, I don't have to go very far up these branches. I'll have to get my wire cutters out in a second. So I'll just go a little bit up these branches. Maybe out to there. Always supporting where you're winding, trying to wrap the wire around the branch, not wrapping the branch around the wire. So you want it thick enough wire that it bends the branch, but not so thick that you're twisting the branch as you're putting on the wire. So what I'll do then is, once I get to that stage, I'll probably just wire out these branches where I want them to go. Okay, so I want to go up first. I want them to be a fairly acute angle to each other at the start, and then they can go out wider after that. The reason I like the acute angle at the start is I think it makes it look more natural, more believable, because you don't normally have branches that are really opposing each other. On a deciduous tree, they do come out at a fairly acute angle. Okay, I'm just going to bend some interest in them. Starting up, maybe bend them down a bit, then bend it back up. These are quite flexible, so you can give them a fairly hard time when you bend them. Just chop it off like that. And then I've got another thin one there. Going to grab a bit of thinner wire. This thin one, I'll be looking to do the same thing, this one here. I'll just wrap around this branch here, which will create the anchor so that this one, when I move this one here supports it and stops it flopping around. Actually, Sam, you idiot, that branch is dead, I reckon. It's dead. When I chopped off the dead branches, I must have missed that one. So now because of that, I'm going to have to change the location of these, otherwise I've got a big gap here, so you're looking to fill in the gap. What a clown. I'm going to push this one further to the back, which means I'll have to push this one around further and closer at the start to create that acute angle, and then out. That just makes it a bit more believable. And then on that branch, all I've got left is that one and that one. So I'm going to wire those two together. Okay, those two will get wired along here. Because they sort of use each other to anchor themselves. If you were to, you could run two bits of wire, but then you would have to run it along this branch a fair way to create a good anchor that doesn't twist and move around when you try and bend this. So by anchoring them to each other, you stop that moving around and all that carrying on. Okay, so this branch is a little bit fat for this little branch. This wire is a little bit fat for this branch that I'm wiring. So I had to be really careful wiring it on that one. But it's pretty well a perfect size for this other branch out the side there, which is a bit fatter. So I'm going to carefully wire around supporting it. Try not to knock off buds. These silver birch have really big, fat, prominent buds. Extremely easy to knock off, so you've got to wire in between the buds. Be really careful, because you can knock them off. You knock off one of those buds, that's it. Welcome back. Well, I've got it wired out. It looks pretty crazy. I like to have sort of crazy branch structure. I don't like your normal pads that just stick out sideways and that's it. I like to do crazy stuff, some going up, some going down, almost crisscrossing a bit all over the place. Absolutely crazy in there, but another thing too, you'll notice a lot of these branches are pretty long with no division, but what I'm doing is I'm baking banking on the fact that that there's enough good, strong, big buds, which there's big buds everywhere here, and the strength that it had last summer, or to put on all that growth it did, I'm banking on the fact that hopefully it's going to back bud a lot, and a lot of those big fat interior branches that are in there are going to shoot out, and that'll create a lot of division in closer. I'm pretty confident that's going to happen, quietly confident, but if that doesn't happen, what I'll do is I'll have to cut back a lot of the branching fairly close in to try and definitely force back budding. But for now, I'm just going to hope that it does do it on its own, because there's a lot of big fat buds, like I said. So let's hope that happens. It's been really fun. Probably taken me 3 hours today to work on this tree. Bit of carving. It's had a bit of everything. Bit of carving, bit of wiring, bit of pruning, bit of styling. I'd probably say these branches that I did are generally secondary to tertiary branches. It's still setting structure, you know, in a way, and pretty much every branch has been wired out here. I've wired out the whole lot. There's not one branch apart from a little twig here which had enough good shape that I left it on its own. Everything else has been wired, and to be honest, this will be the last time that I'll probably wire this tree. If it all divides where I want it to and it all comes out good, there'll be some wiring that I'll do on this apex, this secondary apex, which I'm going to have over the top here. I've got the other apex will be out here, secondary apex here. So when all this shoots, I will have to do some wiring in around here to set the structure for that. But apart from that, a lot of the other structure is done. And then I'll go back to pruning. It's going to be a real bastard of a tree to unwire. It's going to take a long time to cut the wire off, so I'm not looking forward to that in the middle of summer, but it's got to be done, you know. I'm going to keep after them, keep looking after them this year. I'm not going to let the wire cut in. I'm going to keep right on them, and hopefully not have the issue that I had this year with overgrown trees and too much wire cutting in. Anyway, I'll just show you what I do to seal some of these cuts. I'll just do one for you. Okay, I'm not going to do the whole lot, because when I do a spin of the tree, I don't want it dripping with wood glue. Won't look too good if it's all dripping with wood glue. So this is a shampoo bottle. I've put some wood glue in it. So basically all I do is put a bit on my finger, wipe it around on this tree, on all the cuts. Doesn't matter if it gets inside. You don't really need it inside. You just want it on that cambium layer on the outside near the bark, because that's where it'll dry out. You don't want it to dry out there, because that's where the callus comes from, the cambium layer on the outside. So you just want to put it on the outside edge of that. This is just normal PVA wood glue, you know, that the kids use for arts and craft, and it's fine, you know, it works fine. Never had an issue with it, and it's bloody cheap. So there you go. No cut paste for Aussie Bonsai Bloke, although one day, you never know, might get some. Someone might convince me it's good. Okay, so I'm going to do that around the whole tree, but I'm going to do that after I give you a spin on the way out. So for now, I'm going to give you a spin on the way out. I think the front of the tree won't be the front of the pot now. I hope I've got good root system, because when I repot this, I may have to change this whole tree, I don't know. I'm hoping the good root's going to be there. I'm pretty sure it's got good radial roots around the whole thing. So the front of the tree will probably be somewhere there, I'd reckon. So that's pretty cool. Maybe a little bit like that. Might bend this apex slightly further over. Just a little bit. Right, so that's about it. I'll give you a spin on the way out, and then I'll catch you next time. Cheers for watching Aussie Bonsai Bloke. Please like, share, subscribe. Been a really good tree to work on. Let's hope it all grows and goes well. So anyway, I'll catch you later. Like, subscribe, comment, and most of all, enjoy your bonsai. Cheers.